So first what we'll do is we'll see whether learning administrator security group is there or not. So,
What will be a report and what will be a task here? Because it says report, but it seems like a task, right?
view security group is a view security group is a task actually, not a report.
Okay. It said report there when you searched.
Okay, so there is no security group here. So we'll try to create the security group now. So learning administrator is a kind of user-based security group that we'll be creating, because a user-based security group will be assigned to the employees. Employees in the sense learning administrators. Let's say I'm actually defined as a learning administrator. So that user-based security group called learning administrator should be assigned to my user profile. So what we need to select, user-based security group. We need to select
Hmm.
user-based security group, learning administrator. Administered by security group, we'll give it as security administrator, because security administrator will have in Workday, complete security administrator will be, Workday security will be controlled by security administrator. So whichever user based security group or role based security group that you create, you'll be assigning security administrator as a kind of security group, which is a
Hmm.
kind of administered security group.
Okay. So when you say users-based security group, so that means that you're manually putting in the users to this security group. But when it is role-based, that means that it is dynamic in nature, right?
Yes, role-based
Mhm.
security group will be assigned at org level or position level, but role-based
Mm.
user-based security group will be assigned at user level manually.
Okay.
If you wanted to, based on your supervisor organization, it will be automatically get inherited. But if you wanted to manually break that inheritance, you can actually break that and have it assigned to manually. But all the downstream members also will get the same inheritance applied. Let's say you're the manager. Okay, so
Mm.
now for you kind of one manager role is defined. Okay, so we'll create a
Mm.
role based security group called manager. Okay, and
Mm.
manager will be having some specific role based permissions and all, the system
Mm.
access and approval things and all, no?
Mm.
Basically
Mm.
managers will be accessing. So based on your position, you got this one. And your team members below, so they are kind of associate level or developer level or lead level resource. So based
Mm.
on their position, this role based security will restrict them, so it will not
Mm.
inherit. But if you're
Mm.
hiring any kind of manager under you, okay, you became a senior manager and you're hiring a manager under you, so your manager
Mm.
security access will get inherited to the manager person, who will be hired under you, because
Mm.
the role is manager and your role
Mm.
is manager, and your
Mm.
security roles, will get inherited to that particular manager, but will
Okay.
not get inherited to any developer or associate any kind of downgrade resources and all.
Mm. Mm.
So now I've created learning administrator user-based security group. Now this can be assigned to any user, but we've not assigned any learning permissions here. We've just created a learning administrator, but have not assigned any learning related permissions and all. So in order to
Mm.
give complete security access to learning administrator to access
Mm.
any security element related to learning, what we'll do is we'll assign domains to that particular, user-based
Mm.
security.
Mm.
So
Okay.
go to security group, maintain domain permissions for security group.
Mm.
Here you'll be getting what access to modify, what access to view and all. Put and get is something related integration. Will not, since this user will not be managing any integrations, will not be giving those access. But modify
mm,
access, view access, whatever related to learning that are there, will be giving, because a learning administrator is a kind of super user, will be having complete control on learning application. Okay,
mm,
so
mm,
just enter domain named learning. You'll be getting all the domains related to learning. Okay,
mm.
learning access. We'll just see whether all these are learning. Yeah, so all these are learning delivered learning related domains.
Mm.
So what we'll do is we'll give complete modify access to all these learning domains, and also view access to all these domains.
So you clicked on Control A and clicked on
Yes.
spacebar, is it?
Yes. So we have given complete all the
Mm.
learning domains are assigned to this learning administrator, and click on OK. Now there is one activity that you need to perform in order to take your security settings or security setup become effective. What you need to do is you need to activate the security. Okay, so that
Mm-hmm.
your security changes will get effective. So you got all the domains which are assigned to learning administrator, all the domains which we got selected or populated here. Okay. So now this is activated. Now we can
Mm-hmm.
choose any of the user and assign this learning administrator security group.
Mm.
I'll just took one random name.
Mm.
So we can pick any of the user for whom we need to grant learning administrator access.
Mm-hmm.
John Paul and Torres. So to John Paul and Todd, we have assigned learning administrator security group, and they should be having control in performing any action related to learning.
Mm.
Like that, when you're actually implementing, you'll be having list of administrators from business, and probably you need to do the same activity what we have done. So you need to actually create
Mhm.
one user-based security group and assign all the relevant domains to that appropriate person, whoever you
Mm.
wanted to make a learning administrator, you'll be doing.
Okay.
So that's how you typically manage the security. So right now I've actually shown one user base, but depends upon your organization requirement to whom you're actually implementing, or to the customer for whom you're working. They may be having different security requirements. They may want to sometimes they wanted to reduce some kind of permissions to learning administrator. They wanted to have one more kind of wanted to give specific permissions to instructor, rather than giving complete security access to learning administrator. So few responsibilities that instructor has to perform. So you need to create one user-based security group for instructor, and assign some instructor related domains to that instructor, and assign if there are any people who are identified as instructors, for those people you will be assigning this instructor user-based security group, who will be having different permissions to manage course instructions and administer any kind of instructor related activities and all. That instructor will be having permissions, rather than giving complete control to learning administrator. You can also have such kind of
Mm.
you know um, security setups based on
Mm.
So that's how you typically manage security groups creation in Workday. And
Mm.
now what we'll see is we'll pick few of core domains in learning and provide access to the learning administrator what we have created now. Okay, so administrator campaigns we have seen, right? Domain, so which
Mm.
usually manages all the campaign related activities and all.
Mhm.
So basically, any module implementation first needs to be configured with domains and security. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you are actually implementing a learning module, so if you are implementation partner, or if you are any kind of associated with Workday implementation, so what do you have to do first? You need to actually figure out what are all the domains related to learnings are available in the tenant, and to whom we need to assign those domains. That is one area that you need to focus before you go for configurations. And what are
Mhm.
the what are the security groups that needs to be created with all the relevant permissions, that you need to prepare a kind of list. And once you complete that kind of configuration, security and domains, then you can go for extra configuration related to tenant. So that is what we are doing now. Okay, so initially we have
Okay.
discussed some basics, and so we have identified a few domains, and those domains will be assigning to learning administrator. And similarly, you'll be getting a kind of security group creation requirements from your customer organization or partner. They'll be giving a kind of we wanted to have a learning administrator, we wanted to have instructor, we wanted to have affiliation manager as a kind of a role based security group, and all this kind of 5 to 6 kind of security groups they'll be having as per the organization requirement. And you need to set up those security groups with the relevant permissions, as how we have done now.
Mhm.
And once you have those security groups, and what are all the domains that needs to be assigned, so we'll be seeing now. So now we have
Okay.
created learning administrator, right? So the learning administrator should have, obviously, um so we have given complete access to learning administrator. So that shouldn't be a kind of case, since we have selected all the domains and should have complete access. Now, in order to actually go for domain based security group, how you can assign those security groups is pick up that particular domain. Go to this particular domain. Obviously, the learning administrator, whatever we've assigned to this domain should be already existing, but we'll make sure. Okay. So this policy itself is not enabled, suspended. Sometime
What I
when you firstly doing any kind of security setups, if policy is not enabled, you need to just make it enabled.
what is okay?
Enable security policy so that that domain will be particularly enabled to use for any kind of usage. Before that, there is no security group assigned, that was actually not enabled. Now we have enabled. So what we'll do is once we assign security group and as make it as activate, that will be automatically get enabled. So what we'll do
Sorry,
is we'll assign learning.
I didn't get that actually.
So
So
there is nothing,
we uh,
so when you actually go for implementation, few
hmm.
delivered domains that are provided by Workday will not be assigned to any of the security group. Okay. And so when it is not assigned to any of the security group, or when it is not enabled, even though you assign to any of the security group, will not work actually, because that security policy itself is not enabled. So what I've done is I've enabled it now. I've enabled, and I'm assigning learning administrator to that domain and will be activating. So once I activate that one, that policy will get enabled actually.
No, see, this is a domain, right, which we added to learning administrator.
We are adding it now. Okay.
We are adding it now. But you
Yeah.
selected Control A and you selected everything, right? That time it was not there.
This was not enabled, right? The security policy was not enabled, and that is the reason it was not part of the domains that needs to be assigned to the user. Since this administer campaign domain was not enabled actually, suspended. So this
What is
that's the
the
reason why
hmm, what is the difference between domain
that
and domain security policy?
both are same. So domain security policy is nothing but where you'll be assigning domains to the security groups. You will be giving permissions to the security group, which will allow
Hmm.
that security group to view something or to manage something or to modify something. That is domain
Hmm.
security policy. Domain security
Okay.
policy, domains will be part of the security. Business process security policy, BPs will be part of the security. You will be providing BP business process securities to to the security group. For domains, you will be assigning domains to that security group. That is only the single concept that can be
So,
considered.
so ideally, we created a security group, and for the security group, we added domains. Now we are coming to
Yes,
the domain and adding the security group.
yes. This is also one way that we can actually basically support request you'll be getting. So you'll be getting if you are learning administrator or if you're security administrator. So learning
Hmm.
admin may come to you. Hey, I'm not able to access campaigns for some
Hmm.
reason. That was not actually assigned to that, my security group. So
Hmm.
what you'll be doing, you'll be getting into that particular domain. You'll see list of the security groups that are assigned to the domain. You see HR, only HR administrator was there and learning administrator was not there. What you'll do then, you'll edit that particular domain and add the security group and then activate that one. So that learning administrator will be provided with access to the campaigns actually. In that way, even at domain level, you can actually get those security groups assigned. But ideally, when you're actually implementing learning, the initial stage, you'll be actually creating user-based security group and role-based security group, and whatever domains that needs to be provided will be, as how I've done control A and I've selected that one. And the reason why this administrator campaign was not part of the list is this domain was not enabled actually. This was suspended. That was the reason why it was not part of the domains that was selected in the group actually.
How do we know? How do we see what all are not enabled?
So we have basically when you're actually assigning domains is actually a kind of manual way. Okay, so you need to actually go into the domain and see
Hmm.
the security group has to be assigned or not. Okay, so when you are going, you'll be identifying whether the domain is enabled or not. If you go here, you can see here it is now enabled. If you disable that one, that will get disabled. So whenever you are actually going to any of the domain which are ideally when if the module is actually implemented, you'll see that enabled. But when you are going for implementation, you need to actually enable all those actually domains. You need to first enable all those things, because first time you are actually assigning all the security groups to those domains, right? So it is not used, those domains were not used. So ideally, when you're first time implementing any module, that particular domains will not be assigned to any of the security groups. So first you'll be enabling those domains, and then assign security groups to that one, and make it available for usage. So this domain
Hmm.
was not actually enabled, because I don't think this tenant was used by me in my previous learning trainings, and also previous people who are actually managing, they didn't use this domain, I believe, and that's the
Hmm.
reason why this was not actually enabled. And now when I was actually doing, I got to know that this domain was not enabled actually, and I have enabled it now, and assign learning administrator as security group. And in order to become this as effective, what you need to do is you need to actually activate this one. Clear? Makes sense?
So after enabling, you have to activate again.
Yes,
Now,
because you have assigned the learning administrator security group. No.
hmm, 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 hmm. So there's no way to find out what all what all security groups are disabled. Sorry, not
No.
security groups. Domains are disabled, right? Manually, you have to find out whether you have to search and find out whether it's enabled or disabled.
The, that appears only during implementation. So because
Hmm.
when you're actually implementing what are the domains that are needed for you, you'll be actually
Hmm.
enabling them, and you'll be assigning security groups to them. But in future, if you came to know any of the new domains that you wanted to use, then you need to
Hmm.
actually enable them as well.
Okay. So if I want to find out all the domains, if you want to search all the domains in for learning, how do I do that?
Hmm. You need to actually go for domain colon related learning, or generally Workday implementer or Workday people who are actually implementing will be getting a kind of checklist. So who are actually implementing, they'll be getting a kind of checklist from Workday. These are all the domains that needs to be part of Workday kind of things. You'll be getting. So when
Hmm.
implementer or when Workday is implementing for you, and if you're part of any kind of development team, they'll be giving you
Hmm.
a kind of checklist, a kind of spreadsheet. These are all the security groups. These are all the domains that are available in Workday, which needs to be configured in your tenant.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
there is no way that you can identify before implementation. You'll be not able to know what are all the domains that are available, because until unless you have some kind of experience in implementing Workday, you'll be not having control on the domains that needs to be granted for your tenant.
Yeah. Just
So if you're
after
part of any security
implementation.
team, or if you're Mhm.
After implementation, if I want to search as an admin.
You need to actually create a customer report. If you wanted to know any kind of domains that are related to learning, you need to create the customer report in order to do those things, or you need to actually go to the search bar, domain learning.
Okay, everything will be appended by learning, is it?
Yes, yeah.
View domains, is it? No.
You'll be getting all the list of learning related domains.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
So
So
all
now we
these
have
tasks you
activated.
just need to get used to and I mean, remember, is it? There is no place where you can see all the tasks which are available, tasks and reports. Like everything is searchable, right? For a person
Everything is
who is
searchable.
new
Yeah.
to work day,
So if
they,
you
we
have,
don't know that.
yeah, definitely there will be a kind of one sitemap here, because this is the kind of implementer account. The sitemap is not there. But if you have any your own Workday account, what you can do is you can go to your profile. Okay. If you go to your profile here, you'll be seeing one item called sitemap. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay,
sitemap, when you click on the sitemap, it will be taking you to the list of all the tasks that are, where you can access those tasks, whether it is benefits, whether it is recruiting, learning, core HCM, payroll, anything. All the modules, all the available modules in Workday will be getting you the
okay,
list of all the tasks. So to which you have access. So if you click on
okay.
benefits, you'll be if you filter with benefits, it will be getting a list of tasks where you have control to perform any access to that particular task. If you click on learning category, it will be getting a list of all learning tasks where you have access to those tasks. So like that, if you go to the sitemap, it will be getting you all the modules that are available in your workday. And if you select any of the item, it will be providing a list of tasks to which you have access to. In that way,
That's
initially, if you're not aware of performing any task, or if you don't know, what tasks that are available in workday related to learning, the sitemap will help you. Go to the sitemap, select learning as a category, and it will get you
okay.
list of reports, a list of tasks that are available for you to access.
Oh, okay.
So if you have your any own Workday account, just try that one and let me know if you're able to. If you have sitemap, you'll definitely there is also domain for that one. So if that domain is access to any of the user,
Mm. Okay, okay. Got it.
so if any of the domain will be assigned to landing page, sitemap is there. Okay. So if this
Okay,
domain is assigned to any of the security group that is associated to you, you'll be able to see that sitemap in this list.
okay,
You'll be getting sitemap here if the domain is, if you have in your own organization, if any security team is not assigned to you, you can actually ask them to get that sitemap assigned to the security that is associated to you, so that you'll be seeing that sitemap here. And when you click on that sitemap, you'll be getting the list of tasks for that particular module which you wanted to access, which you're not aware. You'll be able to know what are the tasks that are available in Workday.
okay, okay, great.
Okay. So that is about now we have seen campaigns that we have assigned to learning administrator, and similarly, let's see domain learning access. This is one thing where you will be assigning a list of users whom you wanted to actually assign provide learning access. Okay.
Learning access in the sense, in
So
workplace, well,
you can see.
learning also will be an available workplace, is it?
Yes, so you can see here, this domain provide access to learning self-service tasks. Workers with access to this domain can search the learning catalog, view course information, set their learning preference, complete learning surveys, and view their progress in programs, courses, and lessons. So this is basically assigned for all the employees who actually
Yeah,
wanted to be as
yeah,
a learner in your system to to
yeah,
access any of the learning course, enroll to them, and view their transcript history, view learning catalog, all the list of courses and all. So to provide them access, you will be actually granting those permissions to the particular security group here. So let's
yeah.
see, go to that particular domain, edit security policy. basically what you'll do is, since we have assigned, we have not manually assigned because this was part of enabled the domain, automatically learning administrator got access to this one. And
Hmm.
since this is self-service task which every employee should be having access, what you'll be doing is, there is a security group called employee as self.
Hmm. ESS, employee self-service, huh?
Yes, employee self-service, employee as self-service, all employees also is there. So if you select
Oh.
all employees, you'll be this learning access you'll be getting for all employees in the system. Okay. Or if you
When you
wanted to
say
also give
modify,
access to,
when you
sorry,
say modify, what will happen?
they'll be able to edit the course content. If you don't want it to give any permissions to employees, to actually edit any kind of course, basically will not give modify access to all employees. Only learning administrator will be having modifies, but for all employees you'll be just giving view access to view anything related to anything. But modify means, let's say if they're going to any course and they'll be getting an option there, okay, edit this particular course
Hmm.
and all. So
Oh, okay.
will be not giving this modify access to employees. So only
Yeah.
learning administrator will be having access.
Yeah.
And in that way, for all the learning control, your learning access is a kind of domain which will be getting you permissions to all the self-service related tasks, to enroll, to view the course, to
Hmm.
get into catalog, browse the learning content, and to view their transcript history. All these self-owned task, you'll be
Hmm.
getting
Hmm.
access. And similarly, if you
Okay.
wanted to make contingent worker to be part of learning application, and if you wanted to provide them access as well, so you need to actually select
So
all contingent
contingent
workers.
worker will not be a normal employee,
Will
right?
not be a normal employee, but most of the organizations will provide a restriction to them to access their learning application, because they'll be kind of third party resources. Well, they'll
Hmm.
not come under compliance policy to go through the training items or learning items that are designed for employees. So but in case
Hmm.
if there is a policy that even contingent workers should take all the compliance courses that we are assigning,
Right.
you can
Right.
actually select this thing, and probably they'll be, or if you don't wanted to provide them access to all the self-service tasks of learning, and probably if you wanted to create one separate application for them, okay, so you need to subscribe on a learning application for them called extended enterprise learning module. Within Workday learning, there is a separate module called extended enterprise learning module, okay. So that specific module is actually used for mostly designed for contingent workers, third party agencies, and for the employees who does not have a Workday account to access the learning system. That module is actually designed. So when you're actually implementing Workday, if you wanted to go for extended enterprise learning module, you can subscribe for that, and Workday will be enabling that module to you, and you can get all the contractors into that learning module, so that they'll be not having access to Workday. In this way, if you're doing how it will work is, they need to have a Workday account. So all employees will obviously have a Workday account, right? So they'll be having
Yeah.
a Workday account. They'll be logging into Workday, and because of the permissions that you are giving to learning access here, they'll be
Hmm.
they'll be able to access anything related to learning. And for
Hmm.
contingent workers, some organizations, will be creating a contingent worker account to them, and if they are actually hired to create only reports, they'll provide access to only reports. They'll not provide any permissions to view any other employee profile, or to view their compensation, to view other employee compensation. All these things, for contractors, access will be restricted to only their job area, wherever they are responsible to work. Only to that particular piece of work will be assigning a security. But in case if your organization is requiring contingent workers should also undergo any kind of compliance training internally, what you'll be doing is, you'll be subscribing for external enterprise learning module, extended enterprise learning. The name itself says extended. extended enterprise learning module. You will be extending learning application to employees who are not part of to contingent workers who are not part of in Workday. So you will be dumping all those contingent workers into that extended enterprise learning module. So they'll be having only access to learning module. So they'll be not having access to any other piece of task in Workday. They'll just log into that extended enterprise learning Workday application, view the course, take the course, and complete the course. That's it. They can perform anything related to learning, but not other items that are not related to learning. So in that way, there
Okay.
is a module called Extended Enterprise Learning, which you can subscribe. But this is also one way what I'm doing. You can actually give, if there is a policy that you can actually have even contingent workers to take training, you will actually make them as a kind of security group under learning access. And once you click on OK and activate this, contingent workers and employees should be able to perform any self-service related task towards learning actually. Now we've added those two security groups. What is the activity that we need to do? We need to
Yeah.
activate them. So whatever security changes that you're making, make sure that all the activation you need to perform.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions on this.
Yeah,
Now you told workers are normal employees who have Workday account,
yeah.
and contractors or someone who will
Mhm.
normally not have the Workday account.
Will have Workday account, but will be
Mm.
restricted with the specific access. Like they'll not have all employee related. If you are an employee, you'll be having all your different permissions, right? You have permissions to go to the company, your compensation, and view your
Yeah,
compensation.
that is
You have
permissions, right?
yeah,
That
there
is
is permission.
permission. What
But
do you mean by
contingent
Workday
worker,
account and not having Workday account? Without having Workday account, they will not be able to log in only, right?
yes. So basically, if you are an employee, okay, if you are an employee, when company is making you offer, when company is offering you, okay, so
Yeah,
your employee will get generate. Okay,
right,
so your employee will get generate, and the moment offer is released to you, so you'll be getting a kind of URLs to you to perform onboarding activities and all. Okay,
right,
so
right,
they'll be sending you an URL and will be asking you to enter your communication address, your email, all those things. He'll be ordering you before when they are hiring you itself. Your employee is generated and you are an employee of that Workday account. But when you are hiring a contingent worker, employee will not be generating. Okay, onboarding process will not start. They'll manually create a contingent worker account after you actually perform any kind of discussions and all. When you are hiring a contingent worker, when contingent worker inside the organization, the will manually create a contingent worker account and give specific permissions to that one. So when contingent worker is in Workday, what we'll be doing is we'll be giving access to that particular piece of the domain which that contingent worker is responsible for doing any activities. So that you will be doing when you hire a contingent worker. But that is not the case with the employee. Employee will be having a lot of the things that they need to go in Workday. They need to actually they'll be having a kind of job requisition ID. Job requisition is nothing but for the position that job requisition is assigned. So if you're hiring to any of the position, so you are qualified for that position, right? That position is created for you. When that position is created for you, and job requisition will be assigned to that position. Job requisition is assigned, job profile will be there. A lot of things are there for an employee. Job profile, if you are hiring as a Workday developer, okay, so a Workday developer position has to be created. When Workday developer position has to be created, job profile, Workday developer job profile has to be created. So all these things will be linked to employee. So if you're becoming an employee, all these things has to be performed. Then you need to have a position within the system before they hire you. If they wanted to create a position, there needs to be a profile that needs to be saying these are all the job responsibilities that this position will be performing. And that when job profile is creating you, what kind of salary that needs to be assigned to the job profile. So based on that position, salary will be, compensation will be assigned. So all these things will be there for an employee. But for contingent worker, that will be in all these cases will not be applicable, right? So they'll just create a contingent worker ID and have them in the system, give the specific security group. That's it. All the compensation, anything will be
so
taken care by outside of Workday, right?
yeah, so ideally the way they are going to be created will be different. That's all, na. But both
Yes,
will have the Workday access. Okay.
will be
Now,
having
my
access,
next,
but permissions will
yeah,
be different.
permissions will be different.
Yes.
Now, what is the you means? Is there any cost difference of a normal Workday account, employee Workday
Mm.
account, and extended enterprise license? If customer has to take, as you said, is there a cost
Yeah.
difference there?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they don't have to take extended enterprise this one only, right? They can only use the normal user
Yeah.
license what they have
They can.
purchased.
They can go.
They can
So
create the employees, the users as contingent workers, and they can restrict their
yes,
access. What is the
they can do.
difference?
They can do. Okay. So if you're actually, so I'll tell you in my experience, what I've done. Okay. So I've implemented learning module for one of the large Workday customer. Okay. So
Okay.
what they're doing is, so when I was implementing Workday to them, they were actually, available live with Workday only for United States. Okay. So only for
Mm-hmm.
United States, they are actually using Workday, but they have their presence globally. Okay. Their company is
Okay.
operating in Canada, their company is operating in London,
Yeah.
Mexico, India, Australia. So to all these countries, their company is operating. But
Right.
they are using Workday as their HR system only for US employees, but not for all other countries. When they
Okay.
plan to actually implement Workday learning, what they have decided is, yes, so for all US employees, since we have Workday live with all US employees, we'll be actually implementing the Workday learning. Obviously, when Workday learning implemented, all employees will be part of Workday learning activities. That's a kind of
Mm.
default. When all the US employees, when all the contingent workers who are part of United States, okay, so there you need to actually decide. Okay, so whether contingent worker who is in the US should be part of our Workday system as a contingent worker. That is one thing,
Mm.
one question tag you'll be getting. Now,
Mm.
another question. So we are live with the United States and we are implementing Workday learning in UK, in United States. That's okay. But we have all our employees globally. How we can actually assign our learning catalogs, our learning courses to all these employees who are not part of Workday system. Okay. So now there comes in a module called Extended Enterprise Learning Module. Employees who are not part of Workday, okay, system can be actually get into Workday learning as a extended enterprise learner. Okay, so you'll be
Okay.
subscribing for that module called extended enterprise learning module, and the Workday will be charging separate cost for that one. And once you enable that one, all UK, Canada, Australia, India, Mexico, where Workday is not live, but just you wanted to get these employees to only perform learning related tasks, you'll be actually getting extended enterprise learning module and dump all other country employees into extended enterprise. And actually single task, what learning administrator will be doing when they are actually enabling or releasing a campaign, what they'll be doing, they'll be just doing one task for employees, one campaign for these extended enterprise learners, so that they can distribute one compliance course to all the country globally, right? So they can access, they can track the completion status, they can view if there are any kind of course issues and all, they can view for on behalf of extended enterprise learner. So all these things then they can be do. So in that scenario, once you have your extended enterprise learning module, the contingent workers who are in US, right, that thing also will come here, since we are using extended enterprise learning for all the third party resources. Instead of getting access for contingent workers in the Workday system, let's get them into extended enterprise learning module, so that when
Okay.
we actually implement it globally Workday, we'll actually anyways extended enterprise learning will go off then. All international employees who are not in Workday will become employees into Workday. During that time, we'll actually release these contingent workers. In that scenario, company will be actually deciding to get into extended enterprise learning module and dump all extended resources into Workday learning. In the similar way, they can actually push contingent workers also in that extended enterprise learning module, so that they
So,
can track all the completions. Yeah.
yeah.
So extended enterprise
And
learning model will enable extended employees who are part of the
yeah,
organization but not in
yeah,
Workday, will allow them to get into Workday only for learning. Extended
learning.
enterprise learning will not provide any other access, will provide only access to
Yeah.
learning. Even they search anything in the search bar, nothing will come for them. At least for an
Yeah.
employee,
So
based on the security design for an employee, anything will come here. But for extended enterprise learner, only learning will come in the search bar, but nothing can be searched.
okay. So and I believe the cost wise also, uh, normal worker license and extended enterprise license will be a little bit lesser than normal worker license, right?
Yes, definitely. There is actually the outside of the Workday subscription, right? And it is not kind of subscription which provide access to wide range of domains in Workday. It is just for learning, okay? Just for learning domain, just for learning security group. Only that piece will work, and it will be not cost as similar to as how Workday tenant will be costing or Workday environment will be costing. It is just a kind of one module enabling to that particular, just hardly I can say 10% or will be a kind of additional cost to actually what you're implementing on learning.
You mean 10% of a normal. So this
workday
licensing
Workday
is
learning
as
cost.
per user, is it? User count.
Yes. So Workday will not provide to every customer who actually asks for extended enterprise. So they'll be actually defining this subscription based on the head count. So the customer for whom I've implemented, the cost of extended employees was around 3,000, 3,000, more than 3,000. So that was the reason why Workday has given a kind of subscription to that customer. But if you're having 10 members in India, there are 5 members in
Hmm.
Australia, 2 members in Canada. For such kind of
Yeah.
scenario, Workday will not be granting this the extended enterprise model.
They have to use the normal license and they have to
Yes,
bifurcate by permissions.
you have them as a contingent worker. In
Okay.
that scenario,
So
you need to actually define. So when you have
it's not
such
like
kind of
$5 per user, not like that. It is like a bulk amount which Workday will fix based on the head
yes, yeah,
count of the employees.
based on the head count, yeah. Only if it is bulk, not for below 100 or below 1,000 kind of. They have some kind of tagline restriction, so
Hmm.
they'll be going with subscription based on that head count.
Okay, okay, okay. Because in success factors, it was pay per user kind of a subscription. If you
Mm-hmm.
have 5,000 employees, so
Okay,
per user it will be like this, and if it is 1 lakh, it will be like that. So it'll per user it is $5 or something like some around that figure
okay,
for a normal license. So here it will be a little bit different, I believe then.
different, yes.
Okay. Mhm.
So in that scenario, when you actually have your contingent workers in your Workday system as a contingent worker, so you need to
Mm.
actually define a separate security group for them. Okay, so you need to actually define some rules to them. So that contingent worker should not be able to access any other domains in Workday, and also whatever learning administration should provide access to them, they should be able to access only that particular course. They'll be restricted to go to any of the employee related courses. Employee will be offered some specific courses to excel their skill set and all, but contingent workers should not be provided to that access to get into any course that is available in Workday, take that particular course. So that kind of restriction also should be there. So when you have contingent workers inbuilt within the Workday system, so there are some certain security setups that you need to make, where you'll be restricting contingent workers to access learning catalog.
Okay.
Let's
How do
say
we rest?
let's So you'll be actually defining a security group. You'll be actually creating some rules in security group. There are different ways security group will be considering. And there is a security group called intersection security group. Okay, so for that learning access, let me see.
So ideally,
Mm,
in security group, you can what do you say, assign domains. That means user will be able to search for courses. But
yes.
what courses he can search? That restriction?
That courses will be based on topics actually. Will be based on topic,
Oh.
but who have at domain level only will restrict contingent workers to access that piece of area. So let's say if I select enter intersection security group, I'm just renaming just randomly.
Mm.
So here you have kind of what security that you wanted to include. Okay, all
Mm.
employees.
Mm.
Okay, all employees. What security we wanted to exclude? So we'll be doing all contingent workers. Okay.
Mm.
Now apply to current organization only. Now if you now one security group we've created. You need to give any of the organization here. Home and employees part of. Okay. So now you've created the security group where uh, this is for either a security group to exclude organization or to exclude not.
This is intersection security group. Okay.
Yeah, intersection security group. So now you have included all employees, you've excluded contingent workers. Now go to any of the domain.
All exclude
Okay.
all
So
contingent workers.
now if you take any of the domain and if you assign this security group to any of the domain, what it will work based on the setup that you have made here to that particular domain, all employees will be included. And to the same domain, all contingent workers will be excluded. So the security group will exclude accessing contingent workers to that particular domain. So
But
employees
it
will be
will
part
be
of
for the entire domain, right?
entire domain. Let's say if you wanted to actually take example as campaigns, okay, Camp campaign security group, campaign domain is there. Okay, now if you take the security group and go for campaign, and if you assign this security group to the campaign, what will happen based on this security setup? Security groups to include all employees will become a kind of permissions will get permissions to access
Mm.
campaigns, and contingent workers will be excluded to actually access campaigns because you are excluding from the domain. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying with intersection.
Yeah. What
So
about this browse learning content? So that is a domain. Is that a domain?
no, browse learning content is not a domain. That is a kind of self service task. No, self service learning related task. So learning access is a kind of domain, that will get you access to access a browse learning content item. Okay,
So
so
what I am
learning act.
asking is, for example, if I want to include only employees for browse learning content for some courses, and I want to
Mhm.
exclude contingent workers for browse learning content for some courses.
Okay, in that scenario, you'll not be able to restrict them to access browser learning content because that is a domain that comes for learning access. So you need to actually provide the learning access so that they can be able to access the browser learning content. And when they search for courses, only to the courses that they are allowed, only those courses will come, but rest of the courses should not come. So what
Yeah.
you'll do
How?
in that scenario is you'll
Hmm.
go at topic level. At topic level, you'll be actually providing a kind of restriction. So basically, There will be a kind of standard report called browse learning content, which is a kind of search report, I can say. Okay.
Hmm.
That report will be actually getting all the list of courses available in tenant, and
Yeah.
at that report level you will be actually filtering that report to actually filter courses based on the topic. No, actually I'm finding that particular report if this tenant is actually having, so that I should be able to show you how you can actually do that one. Okay, this domain is not yet configured with any of the thing. That's the reason why you're not able to access anything. Not domain, sorry, the dashboard. So,
Which one? Which
base
one is a dashboard you're saying? Browse learning.
not learning. So, learning is a kind of
Oh.
dashboard in
Oh,
which
okay.
you'll be having browser learning all the items you'll be adding here, and employee will
Mm-hmm.
be able to access all those activities here.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be having based on employee access. Will be actually giving all these items to the learning. Also see if there is any report created for learning. Browse learning content. Yeah, here you have browse. You have see here.
Hmm.
So based on this access dashboard access, employee will be able to get into browse, and they'll be able to browse this particular learning course. These are all the browse learning. All these are the things which are actually available for an employee. This dashboard is not configured. That's the reason why you're not able to see this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'll be just creating this one, and we'll be assigning to learning administrator. We'll show you how it works.
Workload we don't have to configure.
Okay, we'll just not configure this one. We'll
Okay.
just have learning. Go to home.
Okay. Learning is also a dashboard, is it?
Learning is a kind of within home dashboard you can configure any other dashboards if you which you wanted to populate on home page.
Mm-hmm.
For now, generally employees will be part of learning, so learning administrator will not be part, because employee will be able to access their self own task, no?
Mm. And even contingent workers, if I want to
Yeah,
add.
if you want, you can actually add, so that
Okay,
contingent
okay.
workers will be getting access to learning.
But again, this will give access to both of them to have access to browse learning catalog.
Browse learning that I said now, but browse learning is a kind of report that we have. At report
Yeah.
level, you can actually play around to actually restrict which topic should be handled by employee, which topic should be accessed by contingent worker. All those things you can control in report, so that when employee gets into browse learning, there they'll be having a kind of control. If contingent worker will be getting access to all the topics that are provided, but for an employee they can access as per their security, whatever they have. Okay, so that they'll be having basically this learning is not configured to any of the from domain level. We need to actually get in that scenario. We can actually play around with all those things. At report level, you can actually control. So basically, dashboard setups, will be coming based on the profile, that will be you'll be getting a list of from business that this is the employee group who should be having access to this workload, and this is the employee group who should not have access to workload kind of requirement. You'll be getting during implementation. During that implementation stage, you'll be setting up.
Mm-hmm.
Here there are certain domains, that will be giving access to that learning dashboard. Okay. So that automatically when you're assigning to the self-service task in the dashboard, automatically the security will be coming into the picture. Self-service learning.
Mm.
This domain provide access to the worker to view their transcript. Not this one. There should be some other thing. This will be getting access to learning dashboard.
Mhm.
Self-service. Setup learning. This is also one learning catalog, which will provide access to your system. Yeah, this is one thing. Basically, this domain will allow her to access this policy is not enabled. You need to actually take care of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this tenant was used to provide learning training earlier. That's the reason why nothing is configured here. And that's good actually. We are doing everything.
Mm. Okay, first we have to enable. Okay.
Yeah.
The status is still suspended, policy not enabled.
Yeah, once you add any kind of security group and activate that one, you will be able to see that the status is enabled. So now activate this thing. Sort of learning. Okay, now if you access the domain, setup
Mm.
learning will be activated now. The domain is enabled. You're not seeing any restrictions here. See, it got activated. So the moment you actually pick that one, earlier you're seeing the domain was not actually enabled, right? Now you see that was actually, oh, it is actually coming again.
So setup learning means what? What exactly does it do? Oh, it's
Uh,
admin.
this is actually domain. This domain provides access to administrator to manage security segments to learning catalog.
This is for
This is,
administrators.
yeah, this is something, for where learning administrator can access.
See, even after changing, it still says status suspended.
No, 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 no. This is not the domain which we activated. Or else we wouldn't have seen that one. This is not the domain. This is the domain actually which we have seen.
Similarly, we have to enable learning catalog also, no?
Yes, same,
This for
same.
users.
Everything, whatever you need to have. See, based on that, what we have done, it is got enabled. So whatever the list of domains you actually pick, when you're actually implementing, obviously to any of the domain you need to assign the security. When you're actually
Mm,
assigning the security at the initial stage of assigning the security, what you need to do, you'll be actually you'll make that the domain as enable. You'll assign that domain as a particular list in the domain list of Workday Learning. You'll mark that domain as a kind of enabled domain, and then
mm,
add any of the security groups that you wanted to get into that particular domain. Then
mm,
activate that one. After you activate that one, you'll start using that particular domain to the security groups that you have assigned, and from there security permissions becomes effective. From there,
mm,
your employees or any kind of administrators or any kind of users, will be getting permissions as per the security domain access that you have provided.
mm, mm, mm,
So at the initial stage of implementation, obviously you need to actually, you'll be provided with a list of domains which you need to provide or start, allocating to those security groups and start, accessing those particular domain areas. So there, you'll be actually enabling those modules first, when you're actually implementing. But since, this tenant, I think, learning is first kind of setup in
mm,
that we are making now, I believe, and that's the reason why
mm,
none of the modules are getting enabled. So we are making them enabled, and we are starting to assign these to particular security groups, and that's the reason why you are seeing. So the process is, if those are not enabled, you'll be not able to view them actually. So those domain
mm.
areas will not be accessible. So you need to mark them as enabled, assign the security group, activate them, and start using them. That's it.
Okay.
Now, let me, kind of assess you, based on the domains and security how we have discussed now. Let's say if
Yeah.
you're, if you're actually implementing any Workday learning model, or if you're supporting as a kind of, super user for Workday learning. Okay, if there is any security issue, if employee comes and reaches out to you, I'm not able to view my transcript. For some reason, I'm not able to download my transcript or view my transcripts. What you'll do?
Mm. First, we will search as to which security group he belongs to,
Yes, exactly.
and
And see,
we have to view the security group and see what all domains that security group has access to.
yeah, first other way is, go to that particular learning setup or learning access domain, and see whether the security that employee is associated is part of this domain or not. Okay, in that way,
Okay.
we can actually identify and grant that domain access if that particular domain is not associated with the user that employee is associated with.
So, what is the task for that? View
No, go to
security.
no, go to that particular domain only. Let's say now
Okay.
I told you learning access, no,
Uh-huh.
learning.
Okay.
You go here, self-service learning task is there. Go here.
Mm-hmm.
The domain provide access to the worker to view their learning transcript. Okay.
Nice,
So you need to
nice.
actually go to this learning domain and see whether the security group that employee is associated with is part of this domain or not. Okay. So
Yeah.
you'll see here
But
list
first,
of the
we have to
security
find
group.
out what security group the employee is with, right?
Yeah. Yes. So what security that employee is associated, you need to know. And obviously, since this view learning transcript is a kind of self-service task, which
Mm-hmm.
every employee should have access. So you need to see whether that employee as self kind of the security group is added to this list or not. Okay. In that way,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to identify. Let's say if contingent worker comes to you and asks you, I'm not able to view complete learning. Okay, I'm not able to access learning. If contingent worker
Mm-hmm.
comes to you and asks, so you need to actually go to learning access domain. Okay, learning access
Yeah.
domain and see whether contingent worker is enabled for that one or not. So you
Yeah.
go to this learning access. What this will do is provide access to learning self-service task. Complete learning self-service task, this is domain will be accessed. You'll be going here and you'll be seeing whether contingent workers is added to the list or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Here you'll be identifying, and if it's not, you'll add contingent workers and make sure that learners will be able to access a learning application. Contingent workers will be able to access learning. But if you wanted to restrict contingent workers in accessing the specific courses, and only employees should be able to access only specific courses, that you can manage the topics, which we'll be seeing in our upcoming sessions. So at topic
Okay.
level, how you can restrict security and all, we'll be seeing in our upcoming session.